Hello, hello. Welcome. All right. So, hello and welcome back to this masterclass series, the 3 key elements to confidently teaching engaging yoga to children. So, part 1 was yesterday, and that was all around this idea of planning, having a lesson plan, but knowing that we're probably not going to be following that lesson plan. So, yesterday was all about adapting, modifying to the needs of the children that we have in that lesson. So, although we want to have a plan, like a go-to sequence, we must be prepared to be able to adapt and modify it. Just because we've planned something doesn't mean that that plan is going to suit the children that come to us on that particular day. And as I said yesterday, it's the basis of the Class Yoga Teacher Training course. So, before we get started, in case you don't make it to the end, if you are interested in finding more about the Class Yoga and Mindfulness Teacher Training course, it's for children aged 4 to 12. You can go and find out more at classyoga.com/TT. So our next course is coming up. It's the 19th of March. I'm so excited for this next round. It's all online, but it's hybrid. It's a mix of pre-recorded, self-paced content and live group interaction. So I'll speak a little bit more about it later. Okay, so yesterday in part 1, it was mainly about planning and not planning, but I touched on this concept of stories and not using stories as part of my yoga lessons. So story-based yoga is a very popular thing in children's yoga. And I'm not saying that it's wrong entirely. Children love it. Some children love it. Not all. But what I am saying is that it doesn't maximize the well-being potential that we can offer our children in a yoga as mindful movement class. So that's what we're going to be talking more about in this fairly short session. Yesterday, I said that the main reason I don't use story-based yoga is that that story narrative locks you into your plan, the theme of yesterday. And it becomes very, very difficult to adjust that plan, adjust it to the needs of the children that you have in that moment. So that's the main reason. You have a story that you're following, you can't really change it. The second reason that I don't use stories is that they add an extra element or an extra layer to the class that actually takes the children further away from themselves. What I mean by that is the whole point, as I see it, of mindful movement is to help us turn inward, to help us become more mindful, to help calm our emotions, to help raise our well-being. And movement has been proven to be more effective in helping us to become more mindful than other seated types of mindfulness practice. They are great also, but movement is so incredibly beneficial in helping us to become more mindful, calmer inside, more aware of ourselves, aware of our thoughts and emotions, and aware of the tools that we can recruit, draw upon to help ourselves feel better when we need to. If we're following a story, that might be incredibly fun. But if we're following a story that is full of characters and games and stories and songs and all great things in themselves, don't get me wrong, but it's taking them away from themselves, we can't become mindful in that type of class. Thank you for the comments coming in. Listening to their bodies is so important. We don't get enough time, do we, to be mindful, to be, I call it turning inward, to be aware of ourselves, of our physical bodies, and of our emotions and mental states. Even though it's an incredibly natural way to be, but because of our lifestyles, we live very overly stimulated lifestyles, we don't get that chance. And it becomes the norm to be constantly busy, to be constantly overstimulated, to not have this connection and awareness of our physical body or that connection of our emotions inside. So this is why I'm such an advocate of yoga being taught as real yoga as mindful movement for our children and not overly making it childish with stories and games and songs and all of those things. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on this. Let's carry on. So, yeah, overly stimulated days, especially at school. I mean, I'm a previous primary school teacher, and those days are jam-packed. Learning, reading, writing, doing, talking, explaining. You don't get a chance, and I'm talking teachers as well as pupils here, we don't get a chance to be still and quiet. So let's give them that. Now, I'm speaking primarily here from a place of integrating integrating yoga as well-being into the school day, but that's obviously not the only time that we can be doing it with our children. So yeah, let's give them the time, peace and quiet, stillness on their own mat, with their own bodies, paying attention to their breath, their body. Yeah, learning to love themselves, appreciate themselves, be grateful. And with a well-qualified trained teacher, allowing that teacher to impart these tools that the children can then draw upon at any time to help themselves feel better when they need to. It should be a toolkit that we're providing them, not just a yoga class, a one-time yoga class. That's another thing that I hadn't actually planned to say today, but that's another key thing why I don't use stories. It becomes, in this story-based yoga lesson, like your fun yoga time. Oh, let's go and do this story yoga. No, we want to be offering a class, or hopefully like short elements throughout our day, but maybe occasionally those longer classes are great as well for extra challenge and progression. But we're offering them that toolkit of things that they can draw upon whenever they need to, whether they need to get to sleep better, whether they need to wake themselves up in the morning, whether they need to get over a fight that happened in the playground or at home. All the things that we can do. So stories, games, songs, yeah, kids need those, of course. But let's have it at a different time, because let us maximize the benefit we can offer children through our yoga and mindfulness. So the yoga as mindful movement can be enough to captivate, create curiosity, intrigue, and excitement. So I've been teaching yoga to children for over 13 years now. And yeah, I've experimented using stories in the beginning. So I'm speaking from experience here, but the majority of my experience is teaching what I call real yoga. And it can still be fun. It's still exciting. It still challenges the children, but it also gives them that time to enhance their awareness and become more mindful. So I have a little story in a moment I'm going to tell you about. Now, I do use games and I do use partner poses. They can be a lot of fun, but they're not the basis of my class. So I use games and partner poses if they're going to add to the purpose. I really think about, why am I teaching this game? What is it teaching them? Whether it's a physical, emotional, or mental reason. If I'm doing a partner pose, what are they getting from it? Yes, we want to have fun. Of course we do. But that's not the only reason. We got stuff that we can really enhance these young people's lives with. All right, so I let the time out for the child to be on their own mat, in their own space, moving in their own body, paying attention to their own breath. I let that be the basis of my lessons. And I encourage you to do the same if you're not already. And, if and when you've taken a specialized training course in teaching yoga to children, so that you can provide safe yoga and mindfulness to kids as well. Now, training is crucial, because I know not everybody watching this has trained to teach yoga to children. That's where I can help you if you would like. Training is crucial, even if you do yoga yourself, because obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, not all yoga poses are suitable for children. And then the poses that we do teach some children are not going to be suitable for other children. That could be to do with age, but also physical development, mental development, and special needs as well. So not all poses are suitable for children. They might be too advanced or just not needed. All of this stuff I teach on the Class Yoga Teacher Training course. And then on the other hand, obviously we don't want to offer something that might be too challenging for their young bodies. We don't want to make it too babyish either. We don't want to over babyfy our classes with too many songs and characters and games and that type of thing. So on the Class Yoga Children's Yoga and Mindfulness Teacher Training course, I do teach you all of the poses and the variations that are suitable to teach to children in a whole range of fun ways that honor their childhood without being overly childish. So I mentioned I had a little story, and it is very, very short. I was teaching at a school, a local school to here, in fact, once, and I think it was an after-school class. So my work is mainly during the school day. But I'm pretty sure this was an after-school class, and he was young, maybe 5, maybe 6. And he had done a bit of yoga before. I don't know if it was at home with another teacher. He didn't give me the details. But just as we were about to start, he said, "Can we do real yoga today? Not the tickly toe kind of yoga." Now, I don't know exactly what he meant by tickly toe yoga. I think we can all imagine that it had been somebody, being very animated and, reach down, tickle your toes, that kind of thing. Now, is that wrong? Maybe not, because some children are really going to get a lot from that type of language. But for that particular child, it was, I would say, patronizing. He felt it was childish, which is why he was asking me to do real yoga. I just thought it was interesting. I thought I would share that with you. We all know all children are different. And whilst I don't want to make my classes patronizing or childish, I want to get them at that right level where I can create curiosity and intrigue and engagement. A lot of that is to do with our language, our intonation. The teachers here will know this for sure. But there's a lot to consider when we're teaching a physical and mental practice like yoga. Okay, so I hope this has been interesting for you. We're going to start to wrap up now. If you would like to find out more about the teacher training course, as well as teaching you all the poses and variations, I get you to create and practice real yoga for kids so that you can go straight out and teach. I mentioned yesterday, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, please go and do that, that I teach you a go-to yoga sequence. But every time we role play in practice, we role play a different scenario. So we learn how we're going to modify that go-to sequence to best suit the children, depending on their age, their development, their mental state, their physical state, anything else that's going on in life. So my wish for all of my graduates is that they finish feeling utterly confident as well as competent to go out and start teaching yoga to children, pretty much any group. Okay, so children want to feel that it's a sacred space too. Thank you, yes, for that comment. It can be a very special time. As I was saying, nearer the start, none of us, we don't get that chance to be still and be quiet, to take time out. Something I mentioned in yesterday's session is to do with that final relaxation, how we have to go through all the stages first, but eventually we want to end on that final state of relaxation when we're offering a full yoga class, not necessarily in the classroom. And to see it is wonderful, because children so rarely get that opportunity to lie down, relax, to have that permission to lie down, relax, and take time out. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. Any questions, thoughts, or comments on this, please pop them just below wherever you're watching this, and I'll get back to you. Please join me for tomorrow's session, to part 3, the last part, same time, same place. And we're going to be talking about ourselves as the teachers, the providers of this special time, of this mindful movement, and how we can trust or learn to trust in ourselves that we're enough, the yoga's enough, and we don't need all the bells and whistles to keep our kids engaged and benefiting. All right, so thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me live or for leaving any comments afterwards. Bye.